It started as a joke that lasted less than 3 seconds, yet it changed 2 lives forever. Some moments arrive without warning. There is no dramatic music, no flashing sign telling you that everything is about to change. There is only an ordinary afternoon, a careless sentence, an unexpected reaction, and suddenly the future you never imagined is standing right in front of you. I never expected that the words I threw into the air with a laugh would become the beginning of the greatest love story of my life. When I jokingly called us a couple in front of our friends, I expected eye rolls and laughter. Instead, my best friend let out the happiest squeal I had ever heard, her face glowing with relief as if she had been waiting years to hear those words. In that instant, I realized the joke had only been a joke to me. Before we continue, if you believe kindness, loyalty, and second chances deserve to be celebrated, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you care about, leave a comment, and subscribe to Kindness Hub. Your support helps us continue bringing heartfelt stories that remind us love often appears when we least expect it. My name is Corwin, and for nearly 8 years, my closest friend had been Marin. We met during our first week at university after accidentally reaching for the same notebook that had been left behind in the library. We laughed at the misunderstanding, spent the afternoon talking, and somehow never stopped. She became the person who knew every embarrassing story from my childhood, every impossible dream I secretly carried, and every disappointment I tried to hide behind a smile. Whenever something wonderful happened, she was the first person I called. Whenever life became difficult, she somehow appeared before I even asked for help. Everyone around us assumed we were dating. They asked constantly when we planned to get married. We always laughed and insisted we were just friends. After repeating that answer hundreds of times, I started believing it so completely that I never questioned it again. I convinced myself our friendship was too valuable to risk by introducing romance. I thought protecting what we had meant never crossing that invisible line. Years passed peacefully. We found jobs in the same city, rented apartments only a few blocks apart, celebrated birthdays together, helped each other move furniture, attended family gatherings, and quietly became permanent fixtures in one another's lives. My parents adored Marin as though she were another daughter. Her grandparents treated me like family. Neither of us seemed to notice how unusual that actually was. Life, however, has a strange way of exposing truths that our hearts have hidden from our minds. One bright Saturday afternoon, several friends organized a picnic in a large botanical garden filled with colorful flowers, ancient trees, and children running through open fields. The weather was perfect. Sunlight painted everything in warm gold, and the gentle breeze carried laughter across the grass. It felt like one of those rare days where nothing could possibly go wrong. Someone suggested taking group photographs. We gathered together, smiling awkwardly while another friend tried to fit everyone into the frame. Just as the camera was about to capture the picture, one of our friends joked that couples should stand together. Without thinking, I wrapped an arm around Marin's shoulder and laughed, pretending to strike a romantic pose. I casually announced that we counted as a couple today. Everyone burst into laughter. Everyone except Marin. Instead of laughing, she covered her mouth, let out an excited squeal that echoed across the garden, and her eyes instantly filled with joyful tears. Her expression wasn't embarrassed. It wasn't confused. It was pure happiness, the kind that comes after waiting far too long for something precious. The laughter around us slowly faded as everyone noticed her reaction. I stood frozen. She quickly tried to hide her emotions, but it was too late. The truth had escaped before she could catch it. For the first time in 8 years, silence stood between us. The rest of the afternoon became strangely gentle. Nobody teased us anymore. Conversations drifted naturally, yet I couldn't stop replaying that single moment. Why had she reacted that way? Had she really loved me all this time? On the walk home beneath rows of green trees, neither of us knew what to say. The comfortable silence we usually enjoyed suddenly felt heavy with questions neither of us dared to ask. That evening I couldn't sleep. I replayed years of memories that suddenly looked completely different. Every birthday gift she had chosen with incredible care. Every celebration she refused to miss. Every time she remembered tiny details I had forgotten telling her. Every encouraging message before important meetings. Every lunch she secretly brought when I worked too hard. Every quiet smile whenever I succeeded. None of those memories felt ordinary anymore. I wasn't discovering new events. I was discovering a new meaning behind old ones. Over the next several days I unintentionally started noticing even more. Whenever someone mentioned dating, Marin always smiled politely before changing the subject. Whenever another woman showed interest in me, she never acted jealous, yet there was always a sadness in her eyes that I had somehow overlooked. She had never tried to pressure me or confess dramatically. Instead, she simply stayed beside me, hoping that one day I might see what had been there all along. The realization filled me with guilt. How could someone love another person so quietly for so many years without demanding anything in return? More importantly, why had I never realized how deeply I depended on her too? One afternoon my younger cousin asked me a simple question while we shared coffee outside a neighborhood cafe. He asked who I would call first if I received wonderful news. I answered Marin immediately. Then he asked who I trusted more than anyone. Again, the answer was Marin. He smiled knowingly before asking who I imagined standing beside me when I grew old. I opened my mouth to answer automatically. Again. It was Marin. The realization struck with breathtaking force. I had spent years searching for the perfect partner while already building a life beside the person who fit perfectly into every dream I had. Love had never arrived suddenly. It had quietly grown inside ordinary moments until it became impossible to separate friendship from devotion. Still, fear remained. What if I misunderstood everything? What if she had already decided to move on after believing I would never see her that way? For nearly 2 weeks I wrestled with uncertainty. Then something unexpected happened. Marin received a remarkable job offer in another state. It was the opportunity she had dreamed about for years. Everyone congratulated her enthusiastically, yet I noticed something heartbreaking. She accepted congratulations with a smile that never reached her eyes. Watching her pack small boxes inside her apartment one sunny afternoon felt strangely unbearable. Every empty shelf reminded me that life without her was becoming real. As sunlight streamed through the windows, I understood something that terrified me. If she left without knowing how I truly felt, I might spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been. I finally gathered enough courage to tell her everything. Not because I wanted to stop her dreams, but because she deserved the truth. We met the following morning in the same botanical garden where everything had changed. Bright flowers bloomed under the clear blue sky, and families wandered peaceful pathways while birds filled the air with cheerful songs. There was nothing dramatic about the setting. It was simply beautiful. Just like the friendship that had brought us there. I admitted that her reaction that afternoon had opened my eyes. I confessed that I had spent years believing I was protecting our friendship when, in reality, I had been protecting myself from vulnerability. I told her I finally understood that love isn't always fireworks or dramatic confessions. Sometimes it is choosing the same person every single day without even realizing you're doing it. As tears rolled gently down her cheeks, she confessed that she had never expected me to return her feelings. She had accepted long ago that simply remaining my closest friend was enough. Seeing me joke about us being a couple had briefly convinced her that the impossible had finally happened, and before she could stop herself, happiness simply overflowed. Neither of us laughed this time. Neither of us needed to. The silence between us carried years of unspoken affection. That afternoon we didn't promise perfection. We promised honesty. We promised patience. We promised never to let fear speak louder than our hearts again. Marin decided to accept the new position anyway. It wasn't easy. For the first time in our lives, we lived several hours apart. Distance tested everything. There were exhausting workdays, missed celebrations, delayed trains, unexpected problems, and lonely weekends. But unlike before, we faced those challenges together as partners instead of pretending we were only friends. We discovered that real love isn't measured by how close two people stand. It is measured by how faithfully they continue choosing each other even when circumstances become difficult. Nearly a year later, on another warm afternoon beneath the very same ancient tree where our accidental joke had changed everything, I asked Marin to spend the rest of her life with me. There were no crowds. No expensive decorations. Only sunshine, blooming flowers, and two hearts that had finally caught up with years of friendship. She smiled exactly the way she had smiled that unforgettable afternoon. Only this time, neither of us had to pretend anything. The answer was yes before I had even finished asking. Looking back now, I realize the greatest love stories rarely begin with dramatic romance. Sometimes they begin with shared lunches, ordinary conversations, countless acts of kindness, and years of standing beside someone without expecting recognition. Sometimes your soulmate isn't the stranger who suddenly walks into your life. Sometimes they are the friend who quietly stays through every season until you're finally brave enough to see what has been there all along. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who believes in true friendship, subscribe to Kindness Hub, and let us know your thoughts. Your support encourages us to keep sharing stories that remind the world kindness and love still exist. Special request, tell us in the comments, have you ever realized too late that someone quietly loved you, or have you been the one waiting for someone to notice your heart? Our lives changed because of a single harmless joke, but the truth was never hidden inside those words. It had been growing patiently through years of kindness, loyalty, and unwavering friendship. Sometimes destiny doesn't need a grand miracle. Sometimes all it needs is one honest moment that finally gives two waiting hearts permission to become what they were always meant to be.